Hi, I'm Francesca Best, and this is my international case study on the bombing of Iran's oil refinery. So let's talk about what happened. On February 28, 2026, Iran's oil refinery Tehran was bombed by Israel and the US. It holds roughly 12% of the oil's reserves in the world, so you can imagine how an explosion and fire on this reserve or this refinery can cause huge environmental impacts because of the amount of oil that's being held here. The Strait of Hormuz has been shut down, which hurts petroleum markets. Iran also attacked a Kuwaiti oil refinery in mid-March, which only continues this conflict. Fires broke out on this Kuwaiti oil refinery, which was already damaged, so this only adds to the environmental impacts that can occur because of this event. So some more details. Attacks continue to occur from all sides, which only adds to the amount of damaged infrastructure and lives endangered. The Tehran oil refinery burned for over 2 days. So this image is not the refinery in Tehran, but this one in particular really shows just how dark and polluted this air is coming from this fire on this refinery in Iran. So damaged oil depots like this can release sulfur, heavy metals, oil, and particulates. And the refinery in Tehran, this one just so happened to be attacked before a large incoming storm hit. So the rain in this storm mixed with all of these compounds, so the sulfur, heavy metals, mixed in the rain and then produced a black rain that fell all over Tehran. So not only did this explosion impact the area around the oil refinery, now it has a much bigger scale because of this storm just pushing all of these compounds farther from the source. So here's some scientific context on oil refineries. So oil refineries emit benzene, hydrofluoric acid, particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and other pollutants. Hydrofluoric acid in particular can injure the lungs, liver, and kidneys of animals and is damaging to our esophagus and stomachs. Explosions at other refineries in the past released hydrofluoric acid, sulfuric acid, nitrogen oxides, and other harmful gases. So we can imagine that this oil refinery might be releasing these compounds, so it could damage the species in the ecosystem surrounding the refinery. Refineries dump wastewater into water sources which contains heavy metals, sulfates, nitrogen, and other toxic compounds. So wastewater is dumped into water sources already, but an explosion can amplify the amount of waste that is dumped into our water sources because there is no screening or treatment before it, because the explosion obviously caused a big fallout from toxic chemicals being released. So hydrofluoric acid causes mutations, which leads to death in mice. It is also listed as a hazardous air pollutant in the Clean Air Act and as a hazardous substance in the Clean Water Act. Oil fires produce sulfur and nitrogen that easily mixes with water to make acid rain. So acid rain causes acidification of bodies of water and damages plant tissues, which suppresses growth. So let's connect this event to air pollution and the Clean Air Act. So the Clean Air Act mentions 6 major pollutants. Most are released by refineries and refinery explosions and fires. So this image in the background is actually from this refinery, and you can see this giant wall of smoke just rising from this fire over here. And while it is nighttime in this image, you can see how a giant cloud of smog this size can decrease sunlight penetration and photosynthesis because of the lack of sunlight. Toxic particles can inflame airways, cause asthma, bronchitis, and can decrease life expectancy. So one way we can kind of help to mitigate the impacts from refinery explosions and fires is to add policies similar to the Clean Air Act and try to help control the amount of toxic compounds that are released in the future. So let's talk about wastewater treatment as well. An increase of sulfur and nitrogen compounds could lead to eutrophication. Wastewater treatment could get rid of this excess and limit eutrophication impacts. So this refinery in the background, this is not the Tehran oil refinery, but since this conflict is ongoing, you never know if this one could also be hit. So if this one were to be impacted, this whole body of water right here and the plants, animals, fungi, bacteria that surround it as well could be heavily impacted by the wastewater that could drain into this body of water from an explosion. So the Clean Water Act aims to decrease point source pollution, and new policies can help mitigate effects from refinery fires and explosions. So implementing policies like the Clean Water Act and the many solutions it had in it could help decrease the amount of impacts from sulfur and nitrogen, so we could help limit eutrophication. In Florida, we have red tide every year, and it basically sucks the oxygen out of our bodies of water, which kills thousands and millions of fish every year. So it's really important to help implement policies to kind of help decrease eutrophication and the impacts that that could have on the environment. That is it. Thank you so much.